My name is Skip Watts, and I work with the College Foundation of North Carolina. I'm here with you today to discuss college financial aid. Financial aid, as we're going to discuss today, consists of three major topics. The first being, and the most important in my mind, grants and scholarships. Grants and scholarships are $3 that students can pursue an effort to. Student loans. Student loans can come from different resources, including the federal government, but also outside resources, which I call the alternative loan program. At any rate, students need to try and borrow as little as possible to pay for their university experience. The less students borrow, the less they'll have to pay back post-graduation. Students, one thing to bear in mind, every dollar you borrow to pay for college will be a dollar you have to pay back after you graduate. There's also a program called Federal Work Study. Work study is an opportunity for students on a college campus to work a specific job. Work study jobs are need-based, and I'll discuss the term need-based later. But essentially, if a student is awarded a work study job, it could potentially be a great resume building opportunity and also a way for that student to help pay for college. I'm going to start discussing the various aspects of financial aid by using several different web-related resources, all of which are free. The first of which is CFNC.org. CFNC is a free resource for students in North Carolina, and our hope is to help students understand the college-going process, but also help facilitate the scholarship application process as well. Students and families can navigate CFNC through the tabs at the top of the screen. Each tab has a specific function. For example, the My CFNC tab contains all the students' work from their time on CFNC. It also includes demographic information and ways students can edit that information within their account. The Plan tab is designed to help students plan for high school, college, and a career. The Apply tab is where students can do their college applications to many colleges in North Carolina, but this is not the only application that students can use to apply for colleges in North Carolina. There's also institutional applications that students can find through institutional websites. And there's also the Common App, which is a national application program that various colleges in North Carolina utilize. The Pay tab is where scholarships that are administered by the state of North Carolina are promoted. And the Save tab is where families can access the North Carolina 529 account, which is a college-specific savings account. Today we'll be focusing. I'm going to start really quickly by dropping the Plan tab down to For a Career. I believe it's important for students to have some clarity they pursue a college degree. I say that because college is getting very expensive. And if students waffle while they're on a campus between different college majors, they could potentially extend their college stay, which in turn could cost more money. Also, if a student changes their major, maybe they decide they want to go into medicine, but the university they're at doesn't have a medical school, they may have to transfer to another institution and in turn lose credits, thus extending their college graduation date. Our hope is that we can provide students the opportunity to find clarity before they enroll. So if a student doesn't know exactly what they want to study, to learn about yourself, if you're on CFNC, has a lot of different career and personality assessments students can explore in hopes of finding that clarity. I'm going to talk a little bit about one specific point within career-related research. If a student, for example, wants to be a teacher, they can find specific information through these different career cluster pages. Now, for today's purposes, I'm going to click on the elementary school teacher. This is actually I have saved in my CFNC account as a point of interest in the past. At any rate, one thing I want students to focus on, Money and Outlook tab for any job they're pursuing. I'm not asking students pursue the bio with relation to their career interests. Instead, I just want students to have a mindset for how much their entry level pay rate will be in the part of North Carolina or the part of the nation with which they want to live. I say that students should research this because it's important that this be their ceiling for how much they can borrow for their college education. Oftentimes, the students borrow more than their entry level pay rate. They have difficulty paying off their student loans. Those are the students that we often hear about living in the basement at their parents' house because they can't afford a mortgage. They can't afford to buy their own car because they're simply having to pay back so much in student loans monthly. So again, I think it's helpful students to identify a career you're interested in, and then at the very least, identify how much that job's going to pay so that you have a mindset for how much you could potentially borrow in college. I do want to reiterate those students. We want to borrow as little as humanly possible to pay for our college experience. So moving on, I drop from here real quickly the plan for career tab, the plan for college. Now, as soon as this page loads, which it looks like it's taking its time, I want to demonstrate a little bit about how a student can research the cost of college before we start exploring scholarship and student loan ideas. So first, students can drop from the plan tab to For College on CFNC.org, and if they click College Search, they're offered a bunch of different ways to research colleges in North Carolina and nationally. I encourage students staying in state if they're pursuing a public university. Students, you're eligible for an in-state tuition discount in the state of North Carolina because you are residents of the state of North Carolina. We get this discount because we've paid in throughout our lifetime into the tax code with the state with which the state we live. So students can research colleges by geographic region in North Carolina if they so choose. I would prefer, however, that students do their college-related research by dropping the academics tab on this left-hand banner on CFNC.org. If I drop the academics tab down and click programs and majors offered, opportunity to explore colleges or research colleges that have the major I intend to go into. So since we were talking a little bit earlier about kindergarten or elementary school teacher, I'm going to click the education and training cluster. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click OK. Now, as the page loads, I'm going to all the community colleges that offer associate's degrees and colleges or universities that offer four-year bachelor's degrees in education. Students understand that most educators at the elementary level have to have a bachelor's degree. You can start that process at a community college, which is by far the most affordable way to start your education and transfer your credits into a university. Or you can start at a university and finish your four-year or shorter college education there. Now, quickly, I want to point out that on this page, you can see Appalachian State is a public university. You can see the in-state tuition rate versus the out-of-state rate. The out-of-state rate is dramatically higher because students from surrounding states, let's say South Carolina, Georgia, or Tennessee, haven't paid into our tax system necessarily. So they're not afforded that tuition discount that North Carolina students are. I should also point out that if I drop down from Appalachian, which is a public university, to Barton College, which is a private, you can see the tuition rate is dramatically higher. That's because this private institution is not receiving a state subsidy to keep their tuition dollars lower. When we're looking at private schools and comparing them to public schools, it's really important, students, that we not write off private schools because of this tuition sticker price. Oftentimes, private schools like Barton, for example, have institutional scholarships that are such that it could outweigh this initial tuition and potentially make it cheaper than a public school. It just depends on the student and and what kind of institutional scholarships the private school has. I'm going to quickly point on Appalachian. From here, as soon as this page loads, there's a lot of information that's relevant for a student that's researching this specific institution. If a student's really interested in this school, they can do application from this page by clicking on this pencil icon. If a student wants to research admissions requirements, they can click on this admissions tab and see what kind of SAT or ACT or GPA they have to be admitted into ASU. The cost and financial aid, though, is what I want to talk about today. If I click on the financial aid piece, students need to do not only the tuition rate, but also the additional fees associated with attendance at that specific institution. When I was a young person, I was mistaken when doing college research because I assumed I just had to pay tuition. I also had to include additional required fees, which at Appalachian may include parking fees or infirmary fees. It looks like you have a book fee at ASU, and it looks like if you're living on campus, this is what you're going to expect to pay on average to live in a dorm. You have to take all those costs and add them together to get the total cost of attendance. I'm pointing this out because in a perfect world, students, I want you to pursue several different scholarships and grants in hopes of meeting that total cost of attendance. If you can meet the total cost of attendance, you won't have to borrow nor pay out of pocket for your college experience, and that's the best case scenario. However, it is a time-consuming and relatively effort-intensive process, but I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to help you get through that. So I'm going to scroll up to the top of CFNC.org, and from here, I could go directly over to the scholarships page, but instead I'm going to roll back to the pay tab on CFNC, and I'm going to start by talking about a resource called the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And if students who are a senior in high school are interested in pursuing grants and potentially scholarships, complete the FAFSA. The FAFSA is information that requires information that you're gonna have to have your parents help you to provide. Not a lengthy process, however, it is something that requires both the student and the parent to provide financial information. Now, the FAFSA is best completed by high school seniors during the month of October or November of their senior year. Just want to repeat that high school seniors or 12th graders are going to complete the FAFSA in October or November of their senior year. And by completing the FAFSA with their parents, they're going to be made eligible for grant programs like the Pell Grant or potentially institutional scholarships at the college of their choice. If students wait too long to complete the FAFSA, they could potentially wait themselves out of some aid opportunities because financial aid is first come, first served. If you can get the FAFSA done in October, November, or December, you're going to have much more aid eligibility. So I strongly encourage you to complete the FAFSA if you're a 12th grader within that time frame. Understand, students, that our parents are going to have to provide tax information 2 years prior to your filing date. So if you're filing the FAFSA for the 21-22 school year, you're going to have to provide your 2018-2019 tax information. If you worked and filed taxes, you're also going to have to provide the same type of information on the FAFSA. Once you complete the FAFSA, you're made eligible, like I said, for the Pell Grant, but also for programs like the Stafford Direct Loan Program, which are student loans that come directly from the federal government and the loans that I recommend above all others. If you want to dial in the specifics about the Stafford Loan Program, can drop from the understanding aid piece on the FAFSA page down to loans and find all the specific interest rates and information that is relevant to the topic of student loans. However, know that currently that information or those student loan interest rates are very much in flux. So the current rate of 5.05 in March very well be dramatically lower next school year because of all the problems that we're having in the world with the coronavirus. Now, there's also student loans that come from private vendors. Private vendors could be programs like Sally Mae or NC Assist, or maybe a program through a bank that's local to your town. If you're going to borrow from a vendor outside of the federal government, please make sure that you sign up for a fixed rate interest rate. And please, again, never borrow more than your first year's proposed salary. The federal government, on the other hand, limits how much a student can borrow through the Stafford loan or direct loan program. They also have fixed interest rates, and the hope is those interest rates will never change, but again, students can't overborrow because there's a limited amount of money within that program. Many private loans that come from those alternative vendors will allow students to borrow much more than their cost of attendance. So students and parents, please be wary, be careful, and borrow as little as possible. Now, I also want to point out that this page has really good information on grants and scholarships. This is generally information at the national level, which is fine, but oftentimes national scholarships are the most competitive. However, the Pell Grant, which is the biggest grant program in the country, is strictly contingent on the family completing the FAFSA and their score on the FAFSA. The lower your score on the FAFSA, which is called an expected family contribution, the better. If the family has a 0 expected family contribution, they're eligible this year for over $6,000 in the form of a Pell Grant. If that's a good starting point, you can then stack other scholarships on top of that Pell Grant to pay for college in total. Please note that as the family's expected family contribution goes up from 0, their Pell Grant eligibility goes down. At a point around a 5,000 score, a student in North Carolina is no longer eligible for the Pell Grant, but they are eligible for other programs at the state level, like the Education Lottery Scholarship. My point here is that I believe all families should consider completing the FAFSA. You never want to leave any free money on the table, and this program simply allows students to access that free money. So I'm going to roll from the FAFSA, which is at studentaid.gov or FAFSA.gov, back over to CFNC.org. I'm going to scroll past the Apply tab, where again you can apply for college through CFNC, and I'm going to click on the Pay tab. I'm doing this because I want to many of the grant scholarship opportunities that students research in North Carolina start at the state level. So from this grant and scholarship page, link directly to North Carolina grants, which again, students made eligible for by completing the FAFSA, but they're also able to access a list of North Carolina specific scholarships. This list is extensive. I encourage students to have an Excel spreadsheet in the toolbar, or perhaps a number spreadsheet if they're a Macintosh person. They can create some kind of document to help track what opportunities they're eligible for, and that those students also meet the appropriate deadline. Scholarships have deadlines that range all over the calendar year. Oftentimes, local scholarships have deadlines in the spring, whereas federal grants and national scholarships and institutional scholarships have deadlines in the fall. So it's critical that we organize our research, and I recommend you organize it similar to how we have it organized on CFNC.org here. There's no great filter on CFNC.org. So students are encouraged to simply go down when they see something they be eligible for, to simply click on the link to find the scholarship, and then to again record that opportunity so that they can maximize their eligibility. For today's purposes, because my time is limited, and click specifically on these forgivable loans for service, because I must point out, these are not true scholarships. Scholarships and grants never have to be paid back. These, however, are opportunities the state of North Carolina has made available to fill critical needs areas. In North Carolina, we really need more educators and healthcare providers. So if a student wants to go into STEM or middle grade or special education, or if they want to be a doctor or a nurse, the forgivable education loan for service will help students pay for college in North Carolina. But for every year a student takes the forgivable education loan for service is the year they have to work in North Carolina post-graduation. In other words, this is a scholarship if the student stays within the education or healthcare field after they graduate from college, North Carolina. If they move out of state, or if they don't work in education or healthcare, this turns into a loan from the date of dispersal. So it's not a true scholarship. However, it's a program that's near and dear to my heart because it can really help students, especially graduate students, pay for college. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to pursue if you're committed to that career field. We also have a similar program for future law enforcement officials called the North Carolina Criminal Justice Fellows Program, North Carolina Teaching Fellows Program. And then if we have students that want to be the boss at their school, we have a program for future principals. So all of those are similar to the Fellows Program and have a work-related look after the student graduates. Just know that not everything on CFNC is a true scholarship. These 4 or 5 programs that are unique to CFNC.org. Now that we know a little bit about how you can access money at the state level, let's talk a little bit about the institutional level. Okay, I'm state because NC State offers a lot of scholarships, and they have a great way of organizing their scholarship opportunities. But please note, NC State is not really similar to any other school in North Carolina. Every college has a different financial aid office, and they all operate a little differently. So students, once we identify the colleges that we're interested in, then we have to figure out how those colleges or universities award scholarships. Generally, I go up to the search window and I type in scholarship. You got to make sure you spell it correctly, because if you don't, you're not going to be eligible for any of the free money they're offering. Now, as soon as this page loads, then going to drop down and click this general scholarships page. At this point, I can start to identify how NC as an institution awards scholarships. If I drop down, it's going to show me that the way students at NC State get free money is through the college they're graduating from. And this is confusing to some, but let's think of NC State as a big umbrella. That university umbrella encompasses all these different colleges. When a student completes his general ed courses or her general ed courses, they can apply, for example, into the education school. Once they're admitted into the education college, they can then apply for scholarships specifically through that college. At NC State, that might be a student sophomore, junior year. So I guess what I'm driving at here is students, we're looking for scholarships all the way through our college experience. Now, if I scroll down, there's also scholarships at NC State for students that work at any of these organizations. There's also freshman-specific scholarships like the Park. The Park is a full ride scholarship program to NC State. It's worth over $120,000. In order to be eligible, a student has to be nominated by their school counselor. They have to complete an application, submit an essay, and do that all by November 1st of their senior year. So again, just to reiterate, most institutional scholarships that come from in the fall. If we scroll down a little further, you'll see that there's very little graduate student funding. So if you're going to pursue a doctorate or perhaps a master's degree at NC State, there's just fellowships. Other than that, students will probably end up borrowing to pay for their experience in graduate school at NC State. So I stress students scholarship dollars as possible for their undergrad or their bachelor's degree. Now let's compare NC State with an western part of North Carolina, Lenore Ryan University. Lenore Ryan is a smaller private university that offers scholarships through the admissions program. When you're admitted to Lenore Ryan, once you on campus, they offer you a scholarship when they give you your admissions letter. In other words, you don't have to do an application. They simply award that to you when you apply and are admitted. The scholarships can range from $4,000 at Lenore Ryan to $26,000. And if you receive that $26,000, cheaper possibly than NC is again a public school close to Lenore Ryan. So again, the fact that every college has a different way of applying and awarding scholarship. Now, moving on from the institutional angle, there's also local scholarship resources. This North Carolina Community Foundation. This organization is a small nonprofit that seeks to provide access to smaller local scholarships across the state of North Carolina. So I recommend if a student's interested in really thinking outside of the box, drop down from the Apply tab, go down to Scholarships, and then from there identify the county that they reside in and try to find scholarships by that county. I'm going to click on Learn How to Apply. And in just a second, I'm going to have the opportunity to select a specific county. I'm going to pick Caldwell County. And as soon as this page loads, it's going to have local scholarships for Caldwell County. It's pretty neat program because these scholarships don't receive a lot of applicants. Scholarships at the national level oftentimes receive hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants. Whereas sometimes these local opportunities like this Milholland Scholars, it might receive, 10, 15, 20 applications. So a student is automatically more apt to receive that free money. As far as national platforms go, I would never pay for any scholarship information. So, all the national scholarship resources that you hear on the radio or on TV are fine, but you just never want to pay for any of that free money. So I guess that's one of the cardinal rules in financial aid: never pay scholarship or grant or financial aid related information in general. If you need assistance, the best resource is to go to the university financial aid office itself and ask a professional from that organization about how they work forward. I also recommend that students think about local scholarships that might not have information on the internet. Those local scholarships might come from their church. They might come from their employer. They might come from their parents' employer. It might come from the Moose Lodge or the Kiwanis Lodge or the Elk Lodge. At any rate, every dollar a student can find in the form of a scholarship is $1 fewer they have to borrow, or $1 less the family has to pay out of pocket. So I strongly encourage you to do as many free dollars as possible, minimize how much you borrow, and try to find a program that you enjoy. Thank you for your time. Feel free to reach out to cfnc.org at any time if you have additional questions. Thank you and have a good day.